Hello and welcome back to Granted Gardens. My name is Melissa. This video today is going to be a bit of a Mod Podge of just different things we've got going on over the last few days. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about using what you grow in the garden. Starting out as a new gardener, you get really excited about trying different varieties of plants, about growing different things, growing your own food, but none of that really is any good if you don't know how to properly use or preserve the food that you're growing. We've been doing this now for I think about 3 years seriously, and each year we try to learn new skills or new ways to further or lengthen the life of the food that we grow here on the homestead. So throughout this video, I'm going to give you clips and glimpses into some of the things that I do to process our foods, to keep them for storage purposes, to be able to use them throughout the year. A lot of this stuff I'm not going to do exact how-to videos on it, but I will try and walk you through kind of the general concept. So along our journey, there's been a lot of research that goes into everything that we do. And it's been years and years and years of studying and doing research and watching YouTube videos and reading books to learn how to process our foods. So throughout that journey, I mentioned YouTube. Anything that I am doing in this video, I will do my best to link the original video that I learned that skill or that technique from up in the top corner here. So if it's something that you're really interested in, keep your eye out for those linked videos at the top, so that you can go and follow the original videos of the original posters that I actually learned these skills from. If you do see a skill that I share here that there is not a linked video to, please feel free to comment below. I'd be more than happy to do a separate video on any of these techniques. So today I'm in the kitchen. I've got a million things going on. You see my empty dehydrator here. I had some basil in there. It's just a bit of basil there. I have one of those, it's a knockoff, but like one of those bullets. So I have this little lid. I screw this on, put my basil leaves in there, screw this on, put it on the bullet. I don't know what mine's called. And it'll chop them up for me, and then it's easy for me to put them into my storage containers for my spices. I also had a ton of hot peppers recently. My hot peppers are taking off. And so I am freezing some of my hot peppers. All I do is I just rinse them under the sink, toss them in a freezer bag, and stick them in the freezer. That's a great way to keep them long term. Or what I've also done is I have chopped them up and put them in my dehydrator. Excuse the mess, it is processing day. But here you can see what my chopped up peppers look like. So they're fully dehydrated and to the point where you can kind of snap them. They're crunchy, you can hear that. And then what I do is I just store them in a mason jar. You can go ahead and put the lid right on the mason jar, and these are gonna store just fine for quite some time. Now, I also have a bunch of cayenne peppers here. So what my goal is I'm going to string these. So essentially all I do is I just get a needle and thread, tie a knot at the end of the thread, and just string these through on, just run the needle right through the tip here, right through the top, and just string them up, and then you can hang them to let them dry. I did also process a bunch of cherry tomatoes, which you guys saw me do in another video. Basically just slice the cherry tomatoes, lay them out on one of these right here, sprinkle them with salt, pepper, and oregano, and then pop them in the dehydrator. And so they're sun-dried tomatoes. I'll store them the same way that I'm storing these peppers, just by placing them in a jar and then putting the lid on. If they're fully dehydrated, you want to make sure there's no moisture in there. They will store just fine for you. Excuse the mess, but it is processing day. Here you can see we've got a couple jars of pasta sauce. We are planning on doing spaghetti squash here in the next couple days. This was all made fresh within the last 24 hours. I grabbed all of these tomatoes. I had my peppers, onions, garlic, chopped it all up, threw it here in this crock pot. And I definitely will have enough for at least one meal, possibly a whole nother meal there. So this was a really great way for me to use a ton of my tomatoes that I had picked from the garden, tons of my peppers. I used my sweet peppers. We're getting them coming in like crazy. used all of them in that sauce, so we're not wasting anything. And that sauce is going to be used on one of our spaghetti squash. So we're gonna have a whole meal made with everything fresh from the garden, making sure that we are not wasting anything. And when I say not wasting anything, I'm telling you, I waste nothing. Speaking of wasting nothing, this here is some vegetable broth that I'm working on. So essentially what I do, you can see, like, here's a chunk of the end of the onion with the roots on it. What I do is I save up all of my vegetable scraps, okay? Every little chunk of garlic that doesn't get used, the ends of the garlic, the onions, I even save the little peels that come off. All of my tomatoes, so these are some of the tomato skins that were from some of the tomatoes that we canned last week. All of this just gets tossed into a pot, cover it with water, and let it simmer for 12 to 24 hours. As long as it goes, I usually wait for it to get down to about half. So I let it reduce by half, and that's usually when it's done. And then over here, I've got some lemon balm tea going. Okay, so this is just lemon balm, freshly picked from the garden this morning. Covered it with water, and I'm gonna let it steep here for probably about a half an hour. I've just got it set on really low. Once that's done, then I'm going to strain out all of the leaves, all of the lemon balm leaves, leaving just that tea essentially. And then I'm going to mix 1 part honey to 2 parts of the liquid tea, mix it together. We put it up in the refrigerator, and it's just something I like to add to my teas. So I'll put a tablespoon or 2 in every tea that I drink. It's a nice way to sweeten it up, but there's also a lot of medicinal benefits. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting my oregano. You can see on the top couple shelves I've got my sun-dried tomatoes going. We're going to load up the rest of these with our oregano. I don't put too much effort into this part, okay? I just lay the branches down. It's not a big deal. You don't need to spend a ton of time placing everything. The only concept here that we're looking for is that you try not to have things overlap. You want them all to have their own little space so that they can dry out evenly. Another thing that I like to make sure that I do is to try and save as many seeds as possible, okay? I oftentimes forget this. I'm trying to be diligent about it this year. Here I'm gonna show you just a quick example of how I save tomato seeds. I got these really cute tomatoes from our neighbor across the street, Dahlia. She's a sweetheart, and so she gave me a few of these because I had never tried these before. I think they're called pear tomatoes. So the concept here is you just split open the tomato, so we'll just cut it in half. We're gonna take out the gel that has the seeds in it. We're gonna put the gel that has the seeds in it in a small jar or glass, fill it with water, and then I'll show you guys what we do to get the seeds out of the gel. All right, so I just have my plate here so that I can keep everything nice and neat and clean. So we're gonna take our tomato, we're gonna just slice it in half, like so. And then here you can see all of the seeds, right? All of the little gel in the seeds. So you just wanna take that out, and then we're gonna do that on the same thing with the other side. So now you can see it's nice and cleared out. There's no seeds. We've got all of our seeds in this jelly residue here. Now the trick is to get the seeds out of the gel. It's really hard to separate them. So I'll show you a little trick. All right, so I've got my clean shot glass. I've got my seeds. I'm just going to drop them in there. Whoop. Just gonna drop them in there. All right, and just fill this with some water, and we'll let this sit for a few days. So the next step here, I just got a clean paper towel, is to get the seeds from the gel separated. So I'm gonna pour out some of this water. So the concept with the water is you're gonna put the jelly mix in there, and that's gonna kind of start, at least help to break down that gel on the outside of the seed, okay? And the concept, the seeds have these so that essentially animals can eat the seeds, and then the gel is going to protect that seed from the animals' processing systems. And then once they relieve themselves, the seeds will spread, and so the plant therefore will live on. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can just kind of run your finger through it. I've also seen where people just kind of rub this together, just kind of rub the paper towel together to try and separate the two. And so the concept is you just want to get a clean seed, which I don't know how well you can see this. But there you go, you've got a clean seed. Then once you have the clean seed, you want to set it on a dry section of the paper towel. So we're going to just kind of do this process, picking up the seeds, setting them on the dry part of the paper towel. And then after you set them on the dry part of the paper towel, you want to let this sit for a couple of days until the seeds are entirely dry. Okay, so here we are on the kitchen table, which is an absolute disaster, but that is okay because it's processing season. Here is some vegetable broth that I made yesterday and canned. This one is chicken broth, so I need to label that still. So one thing, like since we're on the topic of skills and trying new things and learning how to preserve food, I'm gonna try something for the very first time today. We have for a while been really interested in a term called water glassing your eggs. So the concept here is that this is a way to preserve eggs. It's a way that they historically have preserved eggs for a very long time, even pre-refrigerator days. And so the concept here is that you're going to use pickling lime or hydrated lime, some water, and then fresh eggs. So you want to make sure, number one, that they're farm fresh eggs and unwashed. These eggs are straight from our chickens. They have not been washed yet. So you're going to add the eggs, add the lime to the water, and fill up your jar. You can do this in any size that you have available to you. Right now we've got a gallon size jar that's available to us because everything else is currently being used. And you need to have 1 ounce by weight of your lime to 1 quart of water. And then you can just continue to kind of build off of that depending on how much you actually need. So when it comes to lime, this is a makeup of essentially limestone. This just helps to preserve the eggs. In the research that I've done, that was, easily up to 8 months. In some situations, it can be much longer. We will try. I'm not gonna even lie to you guys. This is a new adventure for me. This one is quite an adventure. All right, so I've got my 1 ounce by weight measurement of my lime. I've got my 1 quart of water, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour into, I don't know if you guys can see this. There we go. Our gallon. I'm gonna start with this. If I need to add more, I can always add more. All right, and then we're going to add our lime. It's really hard to breathe with this stuff around. And then we're gonna give it a good little mix here. And then we're gonna start to add our eggs. Now you wanna try and use clean, fresh eggs. If you've got some eggs that have some schmutz on them, you might want to avoid using them for this little experiment here, unless it's something that's easily wiped off, like maybe a flake of bedding or something. But if it's any more than that, you might want to avoid using that. Now here, you also want to make sure you're looking closely at your eggs. So you can see here, this one got cracked somehow. We do not want to use any cracked eggs. So make sure you inspect them well. I want to make sure that they're really well submerged, so I'm going to probably go ahead and just mix up a second batch of this right here and put a second batch of the mixture in. And then every single day as we collect eggs, we can put the fresh clean eggs, the fresh unwashed but fairly clean eggs in here, and just continue to add the mixture until it's full. Once it's full, we can go ahead and put a lid on it and put it down in storage. So that's pretty simple. I'm excited to try this. Again, something new, a new concept here of using what we grow. Here you're going to see lettuce. This lettuce had already gone to seed. These aren't really any good for eating anymore because since it did go to seed, which it doesn't look like it, but it did, just trust me, I've been pulling from them. Since it did go to seed, these pieces of lettuce here are very bitter. They don't taste very good, but the chickens love them. So I like to just kind of pick from these every day, go down and give chicken snacks. And of course, this gives us a really great opportunity for me to show you guys another thing that we're growing on the homestead, and that is an update on the baby chicks. Here, you hungry? Coming out to see what's out here. So there they are. They are getting their big bird feathers are coming in. Look at how big they've gotten. So precious. I cannot believe how quickly they grow. Alright, so that's a wrap for this video. I wanted to thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me. The inspiration behind this video was just to kind of take some time enjoying the fact of how far we've come in our journey and how far we've come in just learning how to use what we grow and process what we grow. And in turn, I wanted to just hand over to you guys some of the resources that I used to teach me. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure if there was anything specific in here that you're interested in learning more about, look up in the corner. I've tried to tag every single YouTube video that I used when I was learning. If there isn't a video tagged to any of that, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do a how-to video on any of these topics. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we look forward to sharing more with you soon.